बड़े इंटरेस्टिंग सेशन के लिए आपका स्वागत है और हमारे साथ हैं आज पैशनेट इंडियन। एक बड़े मेरे चैनल पे कई बार लिखते हैं, ही इज वेरी मच अवेयर पर्सन। आई डोंट नो हिम पर्सनली, बट ही हैज बीन राइटिंग रेगुलरली ऑन माय चैनल। तो ये भी बीच में आपसे सवाल पूछते रहेंगे। तो आज जो मेरा आपसे सवाल है, रशिया का आपको पता ही है कि जितना भी वो एक्सपोर्ट करता है उसमें मेन जो एक्सपोर्ट है वो ऑयल और गैस का है। तो आपको क्या लगता है आगे ये कैसे शेप अप होगा, किन किन कंट्रीज को वो एक्सपोर्ट कर पाएगा, यूरोपियन यूनियन का क्या रोल रहेगा और इंडिया चाइना कितने सब्स्टिट्यूट कर पाएंगे? तो एक जरा फ्यूचर का एक जनरल अगर आप हमें खाका दे दें तो हमारे दर्शकों को बड़ी खुशी होगी। तो ओवर टू यू गिरीश जी।
थैंक यू वीरेंद्र जी। अभी मैं बिफोर we start, I will tell you there are lot many things are happening since last our discussion on this topic oil and gas with respect to Russia as well as with respect to the world and our in consent to India and China. Some time back, most of the European companies, as we have seen, they are pulled out from Russia and they were not doing business with Russia because of the sanction by US and the European Union. But recently, what has happened, the expectation which was there from the EU as well as from US and the world friends, which we call them, that they were thinking that Russia will succumb to their pressure and will not be able to hold this war for a longer period, more than few weeks. But incidentally, the war is continuing from more than almost since February to now. We are in August, almost 6 months is there. And not in immediate future, we are seeing it's going to stop in next weeks or so. So it is likely to continue some more time. Now, what has happened? Earlier, there was European companies were not dealing directly with Russia as far as the crude oil is concerned. I will take oil and gas separately because these two are having a two different dimension and handlings are totally different. So it is not like we can club together into one basket and explain oil and gas in one go. So we'll go first by in a small topic about the oil. So oil was which was going to Europe and used by European countries were mostly taken care by the China and the India, and it helps both the countries, India as well as China, because the prices has shoot up from $80 to $120 in between, and that was the biggest problem for country like India, where each dollar is impacting to $1 billion kind of impact yearly. So you can imagine $80 to $120 how much impact a country can have on CAD and other. So this helped Russian oil at a discount price was helping. But what has happened then? The European Union and other countries realized that by pulling out, they are losing business. So they have now allowed European traders of crude oil to trade with Russia and work. So this is the new change which was not there, and many of the experts have not noticed this thing, that few of the European traders are back into business with Russia and they are serving both Russia as well as their client, whosoever is buying that oil. Okay, it has impacted slightly for country like India, China, because of if we are buying through traders, we have to pay some amount and continue. Regarding crude oil, there is a 10 million barrel kind of a thing which was available from Russia, or say 8-9 million barrel during up and down, which can be replaced either by new source which are not in the market, or the existing player like US, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Venezuela, Indonesia, and other countries steps in. But the problem is Iran and Venezuela are not allowed to pump more oil because of the sanctions imposed by US and the UN because of their other reason. So now there are discussions, and EU, European Union, is actively working. As recently as last year, yesterday, I was seeing that European Union is mediating between US and Iran so that their concern of the nuclear deals can be addressed, so that the crude oil supply from Iran can be added into the market, which will help in easing out this kind of a short supply which is there to some extent. And it will put pressure on Russia because the oil prices will further go down from existing $98, $95 kind of a thing. And they are expecting if it comes down to $80 or so, it will economically hit more to Russia, and they will get their purpose. Russia will have a more economic problem. So this is the some points which are happening at the crude oil end. Now comes to the gas. Gas is a different animal altogether. Let me tell you why. Because the crude oil supply is a well established through tankers, and both buyer and seller, they are having a facilities to export it through crude oil through tankers, and they receive it at their ports through tankers. So this is whether that crude oil comes from country Russia or from Saudi Arabia or from US, and any country which is importing, their tankers can come in and then they can offload their cargo, and this is easier way of handling. But the gas is a different animal. As I said, it can either be supplied through pipeline or through LNG. LNG is a liquefied natural gas where the gas is compressed at a very high pressure at a very low temperature, so that reasonable amount of gas can be compressed into a liquid, and it can be transported like a petroleum crude oil to destination where the people are buying gas, like India is buying gas from Qatar. So it is not coming through pipeline, but from LNG. So most of the distance gas is through LNG, which is liquefied natural gas. Now question comes, so what is the problem when like a crude oil is going in tankers? What is the problem with the LNG? Here is the point. In a normal terms, gas we normally can't store beyond a certain point. So it is a regular production and regular supply. And easiest way and the cost-effective way is through pipeline. So most of the producer or exporter, our first choice is gas through pipeline. Now, like in US is the biggest producer and exporter, means producer of the gas after shale gas points, but they are also the biggest consumer of the gas in the world. So now, but still they are having certain quantity surplus. So US was prepared for that, and they had created a LNG facilities at their end so that they can supply excess gas in addition to whatever their internal consumption, and they can supply not only from the economic point of view, but as a strategic relationship with the countries to whom they support. So to only they supply LNG, not to everyone, and anyone can go and buy LNG from US just because paying money. Now comes to the Russia and the Qatar and other countries who are exporting gas. So Russian gas, which was 85% was going to the European Union of their export. Now, all these exports was through pipeline because Russia is surrounded by the European Union, and they were going through different route. Mainly it was going through Ukraine, and Ukraine was getting a good amount of transportation fee charges because the pipeline is passing through Ukraine. So gas, whether going to Germany or Poland or any other countries by Ukraine, so that much quantity of gas, which is even not consumed by Ukraine, but they were getting certain quantity of transportation fees. Now, after this war, and before this war, let me say, before this war, Russia was not happy with the transportation charges which they were paying. So they were looking for an alternate, and they have started a separate infrastructure from Russia to the European Union. And in that case, we must have heard the lane Nord Stream NS1, NS2 pipeline, and also pipeline to Turkey, pipeline to other places. So Russia was having this pipeline infrastructure, which was bypassing the Ukraine and supplying this gas to the different destination in Europe, mainly Germany, Turkey, Holland, France, Poland, etc. Now, after this war, immediately the reaction was that stop everything from Russia, and then so that Russia will be taught lesson and they will be in a trouble. Unfortunately, there was no long-term planning for the gas. As I said, this pipeline structure is there, but none of these European countries are having an LNG facilities at their end, except France, because France
Okay.
was getting a good amount of gas from other than Russia, so they were having an LNG facilities. Now, question will be asked,
नहीं गिरीश जी, ये जो आप जब एलएनजी फैसिलिटी की बात करते हैं तो वो इट मींस व्हाट? जो लिक्विड फॉर्म में गैस आ रही है उसको वो कन्वर्ट करेंगे, दैट सॉर्ट ऑफ सिचुएशन यू आर टॉकिंग ना?
okay, see, LNG facilities are created at a port, near to port, high pressure and very
प्रेशर
low
लो
temperature.
टेम्परेचर, या
Very high pressure and low temperature. Now,
यस,
comes to that nearby area to the port from where they want to export LNG. First is to convert gas to LNG. So near to the port area or somewhere from the production place, if it is export is nearby. So what they do, they generate that facilities where gas is converted into LNG and it can be loaded into tankers. And tankers are special because they are not a normal kind of tanker. These tankers should also having that facilities where this gas can be stored in their vessels and remain at a low temperature at high pressure. So LNG tankers are special. Mostly it is Japan and South Korea are having maximum share worldwide from where these tankers are built. So from their facilities, these tankers are being built, and now China is also creating these facilities. But as of now, Japan and South Korea are the leader worldwide from where we are buying this tanker.
तो
Now,
गिरीश
once
जी,
this,
जो हमारे दर्शक होंगे ना उनको तो एक्चुअली बहुत ज्यादा नॉलेज इस बात की नहीं होगी, बट मैं एक क्वेश्चन आपसे पूछता हूँ, जैसे यूएसए से या नॉर्वे से हमने एलएनजी मंगानी है, तो वो वहां पे कन्वर्ट करेंगे, उसको हाई प्रेशर लो टेम्परेचर पे लिक्विड फॉर्म में कन्वर्ट करेंगे, उसके बाद टैंकर के थ्रू आएगा अगर पाइपलाइन नहीं है, और इधर
that's it.
जब फ्रांस में या जहां कहीं भी जाना है उसको, वहां पे अगेन उसका रिकन्वर्जन फैसिलिटी होनी चाहिए.
Yes, that's what
दैट
I
इज
was
हाउ
telling you.
इट शुड बी.
Correct, very correct. It is the same thing. Like once it has come, the facility should also be there where this thing can be offloaded and again reconvert into gas.
हाँ.
See, again,
Girish ji, my question, Girish ji.
yes, yes.
What I mean is कि now this Nord pipelines जो आप बता रहे हो, ये Nord pipelines through Ukraine आई हैं firstly?
No, not NS
Yes.
pipeline is bypassing the Ukraine.
Yes, that was the basic concern. Now this is a new pipeline which had required to have those regasification facilities at their receiver end, where the facility has not yet been created, and because of this only the actual the conflict started because of this only. If I may be correct.
No, sir, it's slightly different. This pipe, the normal pipeline like NS1, NS2, they are operating at a certain pressure, let's say 80 bar, 100 bar, and this gas is going into gas form. It is not converted into. So this pipeline are not suitable for a low temperature because the material, steel and other things, they are suitable for a certain temperature and pressure. But once we go into minus 200, minus 300-degree kind of a temperature, then material of the pipe has to be different. That's why it is cryogenic and it comes in a different category. So this pipeline can handle a normal gas at a higher pressure. But when the LNG comes, normally don't, because this kind of material are very, very costly. So what happens? We convert them into a gas. So LNG से हम उसको वापस gas में convert करते हैं. So this is another facility, is regasification we call it. First,
Okay.
we convert into gas into liquid. That is stage one, from where the gas exporting terminal is converting gas into liquid. And once you receive at a, let's say, importing area, let's say India or France or any other place, then you should have a facilities from where this liquid natural gas should be converted into a natural gas. From there, you can convert, transport it through pipeline. So pipeline are to be there at where importing facilities is there for LNG. Now, all these nations so far, because of their last 60 years, 50 years, they were having a dependency on Russia, and Russia was the most dependable gas supplier in this region. So they had never created these facilities because gas pipeline is much cheaper than LNG business, because conversion and reconversion is costing. And you are losing $1 to $2 per MMBTU in converging first to LNG and then LNG to regasification. So why should we pay unnecessarily 30-40% extra, which can be done through normal pipeline? So infrastructures was not there in most of these area where this regasification facilities is also needed. Now,
Okay.
there are ways how to do that. Suppose if we go into a normal infrastructure creation mode, it will need at least 3 to 4 years to create these facilities. Other option is floating facilities we can hire, like tankers, which we can have it on rent. Similarly, floating LNG facilities are also there, where they can take this floater and convert this LNG into gas and then again put it. But those units are very, very limited, specifically designed for an area, for a quantity, and where there's water depth and all other things has been designed. Like say somebody want floating LNG regasification facilities at west coast of India. Here, our climate, weather conditions are different from the east coast. So the floating facilities which has to operate in east coast has to be of different design, because here 100 kilometer per hour wind velocities is there at east coast, which we normally do not find on the west coast. So depending upon the area where this floater can be deployed and can be used to convert LNG into regasification facilities, let's call it. So we should have identified those floater and can be used for this regasification. The problem is these are limited. So both exporter as well as importer here, let's say Russia and other European Union, have to create that infrastructure first, and then only they can switch over totally from Russian gas to alternate source, provided sufficient quantity of that LNG are available from those sources for a long term. Because we are not talking for a short term, for a period of 5 months or 6 months. It has to be continuously for decades and decades.
So गिरीश जी, ये तो बहुत आपने टेक्निकली बहुत मतलब आपको तो बहुत नॉलेज है इस मामले में, बिकॉज यू हैव बीन थ्रू थिक एंड थिन इस प्रोफेशन में. अब हमारा तो कंसर्न है ना, वो तो बेसिकली इंडिया से रिलेटेड है और इकोनॉमिक्स से रिलेटेड है. अब वो जो एक तो ये है कि अगर ये यूरोपियन यूनियन यूएसए से और या फिर नॉर्वे से वहां से अगर गैस मंगाता है, पेट्रोल का तो आपने बता दिया कि पेट्रोल उनको कैसे अल्टीमेटली हाउ दे आर गोइंग टू सॉर्ट इट आउट. अभी बात कर रहे हैं गैस की, तो यूएसए से मंगाएगा, नॉर्वे से मंगाएगा या फिर और कोई सोर्स होगा. तो ये जो अल्टरनेटिव इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेवलप करने में इनको यूरोपियन यूनियन को कितना टाइम लग जाएगा?
As I said, all these facilities which are being built at China, South Korea, and Japan, most of these facilities are booked for next 2 to 3 years. So they have to step in at a very, very high premium to get their slot and get these facilities. So at the earliest also, it will be a year or more. It cannot be done in few weeks time until unless, as I said, some floaters are available and with their good relation, they hire it, provided that country is having an alternate for that regasification facility.
तो मतलब मैं नहीं गिरीश जी, यूरोपियन यूनियन का मैं बात कर रहा हूँ, उनको कितना टाइम लगेगा? वो लगभग इतना ही टाइम लगेगा, 2 या 3 साल?
Because they can't create these facilities of their own, because they are depending upon these facilities are special. Like no doubt, Germany, France, Britain, they are very good in technology, but they are not building it regularly like Singapore, South Korea, and Japan are doing, because they are very, very advanced in the shipbuilding and these facilities. So wherever the shipbuilding facility is there, these equipments can be installed on those shipbuilder location, and that can be done like Norway and other things. But as I said, these yards are already booked for their further future requirements. So none of the customer would like that they should be deferred by another year or two and somebody else comes and take their slots.
तो गिरीश जी एक बार बताइए, फिर रशिया से अगर हमें गैस लेनी है और जो अल्टरनेटिव रूट अगर जो डेवलप हो रहा है, अजरबैजान, ईरान, बंदर अब्बास और इधर बॉम्बे या जो भी जहां पे भी उसको हम अनलोड करेंगे किसी पोर्ट पे, तो ये हमारे पास मतलब ऐसा कौन सा तरीका है जिसकी वजह से, जिसके थ्रू हम रसिया से गैस इंपोर्ट करने, बिकॉज हमारी प्रॉब्लम आज की डेट में एक्चुअली गैस की ज्यादा हो रखी है. व्हाट यू से?
Girish, my
Yeah.
question also in this regard कि मेरा ख्याल है कि इंडिया में ये जो रीगैसिफिकेशन का फैसिलिटी एग्जिस्ट करता है बिकॉज वी आर गेटिंग इट फ्रॉम मिडिल ईस्ट ऑलरेडी.
Yes, you are right. We are getting lot of LNG from Qatar, and we are having a regasification facilities at the west coast. Why I'm telling west
Now,
coast? Because west
now,
coast
sir,
is
one more
being.
question.
Okay, I'll answer your question, Virendraji. First, let me answer passionate Indian. Yes,
Okay.
we do have a regasification facilities at west coast, and from where the LNG which we are importing is being used in the west coast as well as through pipeline. Then it is distributed all over India wherever this gas supply we are getting. So what we call it CNG, PNG, the city natural gas and pipeline natural gas, they all are basically LNG which is used for our automobile as well as for the city gas distribution. So yes, we do have a regasification facilities, and we can use that facilities if we get LNG. Now, Virendraji, your question about the Russian gas. As I said, exporters should have that facilities and importers should have. As far as India is concerned, yes, we do have a facilities for regasification. Unfortunately, Russia is not having enough capacity for LNG increase. They want to increase their capacity from the existing around 2 to 3 million cubic meter per day to another double, triple it, but they will take few years to develop it. And unfortunately, because of the sanction, where Japan and South Korea is also part of that sanction, Russia will find it difficult to get that LNG facilities to increase their existing capacity beyond the existing one which they are having. So LNG from Russia is not an immediate solution for India. Now India has to find from the other source gas. I'm talking of gas. Crude oil we have discussed. Crude oil we can get and we are getting from anywhere. It is not an issue. Only LNG which we can't get it from Russia because Russia is having a very limited. As I said, 85% of its export is through pipeline. Only 15% is through LNG because they were not needing it. As if the thing can be done at a lower cost, why should we unnecessarily increase that cost by creating that LNG facilities? But nobody has visualized that this kind of situation will come. Yes, now they will go create it. But as I said, South Korea and Japan are part of the sanction. So Russia will find it difficult to increase rapidly. They will take time, but that can take few months to a year or so, more than that, to increase their capacity from the existing. So that is why LNG from Russia is a not solution for India because they do not have enough capacity export of gas through LNG. Pipeline we can't create from Russia to India because it will be a 5-6 year provided we have a very good relationship with Iran and the other countries from which pipeline will come.
Yeah.
So it's not immediately in near future. And then what will happen after that, we don't know. So we are not, nobody is going to put that money into that pipeline from Russia to India as far as immediate
तो गिरीश जी, अगर रसिया अपनी गैस एक्सपोर्ट नहीं कर पाता बिकॉज यूरोपियन यूनियन वाले अगर किसी में ना किसी तरीके से बंद कर देते हैं सैंक्शंस की वजह से, या और कोई भी रीजन हो सकते हैं, और साथ में अल्टरनेटिवली इंडिया और चाइना को भी एक्सपोर्ट नहीं कर पाता, तो ऑब्वियसली व्हाट यू से उनकी इकोनॉमी तो डेफिनेटली इंपैक्ट होगी उस हालत में.
At the same time, it is not going to stop immediately. The biggest problem as of now is for the Europe how to overcome their winter because they do not have enough gas to come out of this winter without Russian gas, as I said, without. So they are totally dependent upon, to certain extent, for 40-50% gas they need in all probability from Russia to pass this winter. So once this 6 month is there, then only alternate will be find out. At the same time, European Union will find alternate of this gas either through fuel, different fuel like crude oil or fuel oil or other gas other than gas and continue their operation, At the same time, Russia also has to find out an alternate to their gas. But Russia के लिए it will be a bit difficult for gas to find out, because until and unless they are working on a gas pipeline to China, which is going on, that is called that Asia pipeline, they call it, and
Yeah.
but it is to Siberia, and Siberia is one of the toughest terrain from the weather climate point of view. But both China and Russia is working, and if this pipeline completed or incomplete in time, and now they have to increase their size, then Russia will find an alternate market other than Europe, and they can extra gas of Europe they can pass to China. So the alternate is to work hard on route to China from Russia. But India is
Girish ji,
not.
one question.
Yes, please.
One question. Now that means the sanctions are backfiring on the European Union, firstly. And what happens to the excess gas produced? Isn't it like petroleum की जो produce हो रहा है वो wastage ही हो रहा है कि या फिर वो cap लगा के रोका जा सकता है?
See, there are two kind of a gas. One is associated gas, which comes with the crude oil, and one is pure gas, which is gas well. So if suppose there is a no supply, or means there is no demand, so what happens? Most of the operator, producer, we call it, we stop first the gas wells, means which is not having and gas. So most of the crude oil which comes also comes with the gas. So that gas will continuously to be used, and if it is not being used as a export, then it will be burned out depending upon if crude oil requirement is in any case we need it. But if crude oil also requirement is reducing, then accordingly associated gas will also reduce. But associated gas is normally after internal consumption and LPG and other thing, if it is not being used or exported, we burn it, and normally 5 to 7% burning all over the world is a normal feature.
Now, the other part that these sanctions are backfiring on the EU.
It will, yes, that's why in spite of all the halla gulla, they are not in a position to stop gas, and rather I will say they have to accept terms and conditions which was not good for European Union, and they had to pay them in ruble, which was not their contract. But Russian insisted to Poland and other countries that unless you pay us in ruble, will not pay you, will not export gas. And finally, they have to start paying them in ruble. So ruble survive in the initial phase. But that was the initial part. But the bigger picture for Russia will be this war is ultimately hitting them very badly. There's no doubt about that, because this is a wasteful expenditure which is happening, not for their export for other than defense. So they are losing badly. This expenditure is not generating income to them apart from crude oil and other thing. So they can't continue for long. They have to find a solution for this war. Otherwise, Russian economy will be very badly hurt. Even today also they are getting hurt, but they are continuing. And but long term, it will not be good for Russia. Of course, European Union will continue with this terms and condition for time being, and maybe in 6 months or so, or maybe after a year, they will find an alternate, and then switch over to coal or switch over to some other alternate means and survive their system without Russian gas. But at least for the near 6 months to 1 year, there's no alternate to Russian gas to most of the European Union other than France and Turkey, because they are having a nearby LNG facilities and regasification facilities. So they can find from alternate source. But those who do not have regasification facilities, they have no other option but to buy Russian gas.
You have heard this fascinating discussion with Girish ji. He has got very, very vast knowledge about this field, and it cannot be covered up in one video. Some beautiful questions from passionate Indian side, and of course enlightening answers from Girish ji. We will continue this discussion, but for the time being, where are we? Where is Russia and where is European Union? Fact remains, right now they do not have the choice. European Union has to depend on Russia, no doubt about that. and Russia has got no choice but to export the gas to European Union. Fact remains, up to December, probably European Union will have to depend on Russia. How it shapes up, we will wait, and that particular event will determine who is going to blink first, whether it will be Russia or whether it will be European Union, and that blinking part will decide the fate of Ukraine. I hope you like this discussion. I'll see you in next video. मेरी आपसे गुजारिश रहेगी कि प्लीज लाइक शेयर एंड सब्सक्राइब. थैंक यू सो मच. थैंक यू.